Okay. The president's not here tonight, so I'll go ahead and conduct the meeting. We'll go ahead and do roll call of officers. We'll go ahead and start at the far left.
Mike Hanna, present.
Ned Isbell present.
Dave Craven's present.
Steve Denny present.
Lisa Floyd present.
Mike Gromack, present.
So is that everybody from the RDC, RDA, and EDC?
General EDC.
Okay. And then I think we have Tim Thompson virtual. Is he on? Do you show him online? Okay, give me 1 second.
Control. There's a seat here, but I have to sit down.
Just texting. So how many from the EDC are on the board? Okay, so we got two. So we have a quorum. So we have a quorum for all three boards. So we'll go ahead and get started. So we'll go with the approval of minutes for the RDC for December 5th, March 7th. No, I'm sorry, that March 8th. Approval of minutes from December 5th. Is everybody from the RDC had a chance to review the minutes and have any questions or concerns? Okay, if there are no questions or concerns, I'll take a motion to accept the minutes.
Motion.
In a second.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second for the RDC. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, those opposed? Okay, the minutes have passed. Approval of minutes for the joint meeting of the RDC and RDA from March 7th, 2024. Are there any questions or concerns about the joint minutes from 2024? Seeing none, I need a motion to accept the minutes from March 7th, 2024 of the joint meeting of the RDC, RDA.
Motion. Oh, sorry.
No, you go ahead.
Motion.
And I need a second.
Second.
With the motion and a second, all those in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Okay, those minutes are approved. And then it looks like there is, does the RDA want to do this portion? It looks like you've got minutes. Oh, that's from the joint meeting too.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the EDC, looks like you have minutes needing approval from June 13th, 2024. Have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, those are passed and approved. We have no old business, so we'll go into new business. Election of officers for the RDC. I'll make a motion to elect Dan Maddox as the president for the RDC.
Second.
We have a second. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor for the RDC, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Okay, so Dan Max will be the president for the RDC. Then we need vice president for the RDC. Is there any motions?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, is there a secretary? I can't remember. Is it just?
Yeah, secretary.
Okay, so we need a secretary. I need a motion. I need a nomination for secretary for the RDC. I'll make a motion to nominate Dave Cravens. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Okay, congratulations, Dave. Okay, I think that's it for the RDC. Now we have the RDA. You guys just want me to keep it?
You can keep leading it on if you want to, that's fine.
Okay, I need a motion, I need a nomination for president for the RDA.
Make a motion, we elect Mike Romack.
Got a motion.
Yes. Thompson takes Ashley Houston's place. Is he on the,
No,
He's-
it's on the EDC.
oh, he's on the EDC. Oh, it's you.
So it's
You're on
your
the EDC.
president, Jeanette's vice president. and Ashley's
Well, we're
secretary.
just approving that. Okay. Ashley's not here. All right. So I second it.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, congratulations. And now we need a motion for, or nomination for vice president.
I nominate Jeanette Isbell. Is there a second? Do you hear me down there?
I hear you.
You can second it,
I
right?
can second it?
Yeah.
All right.
You're the only one that's here besides me, so you have to.
Okay, so we have a motion, a nomination, a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And
Those opposed? Is there a secretary for this?
Yeah. So I nominate Ashley Houston.
There's a nomination. I need a motion. There's a motion and a second. Any second?
second it.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, so we've got the RDC and the RDA. Now we need the EDC. We have we have one member present and then one member that's trying to get online.
And Joel here, so. We have two present.
Okay, so I need a nomination for EDC president.
I nominate Mike.
There's a
I'll
nom,
second it.
okay, there's a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, and then I need a nomination for vice.
I nominate Joel.
There's a nomination. I need a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? And do we need a secretary? I need a nomination for secretary for the EDC.
I nominate, is it Tim or Jim?
Tim.
Tim Thompson. President. Secretary.
And then there was a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? And Thompson's the secretary. So we got election of officers taken care of. And now we've got next in line for new business is the Reedy financial report.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Matt Frischie with 3D Financial Group. Good to be back with you guys this evening. I'm here tonight to satisfy Pendleton RDC's first reporting requirement for the year 2025. On the screen, and you guys should have the packet as well, the report that will satisfy this reporting requirement. It's actually a two-part reporting requirement. The first is April 1st, presentation to the RDC on essentially what transpired in calendar year 2024. That this report, summarizes and has all the data included within your guys' TIF funds on what was received, what was expended last year. And then the second part of the report would be the April 15th piece, which is just providing this report to the town council, and then the subsequent upload of this information into Gateway. Once again, just kind of outlining what essentially happened in calendar year 2024. So I'll just flip through this, flip/scroll through this with some help over here. So we want to go to the second page, really just a table of contents, so not much to discuss there. Page 3, if we want to move forward. We like to include this. This is just a breakdown of all the reporting requirements that you guys are subject to on an annual basis. So as I said, you have your April 1st and your April 15th, which talk about specifics in regards to what occurred in the previous year. So in this case, 2025 report for calendar year 2024. Then we'll have our annual meeting, which is what we did at your guys' last meeting in December, essentially inviting all overlapping units to attend the meeting and presenting our TIF impact. That needs to get done by December 31st. So that technically is a report for 2024. And then you have your 2025 items, which would be the June 15th reporting requirement, determining if we're going to pass through any assessed value within our TIF allocation areas to the base assessed value. Then you have your, April 1st time frame. We'll look at the values for next year and neutralize those to determine what values belong in the base assessed value and what values belong within the TIF. And then finally, scroll down just a little bit, you'll see that December 1st, that newer reporting requirement that was the first year last year, which is our December 1st spending plan, which outlines our expected expenditures for the ensuing year. So if you want to flip on to page 4, really just an outline of the various members on the RDC, designating Robert as local counsel for the RDC, and then just a breakdown of the overlapping units that are impacted by your guys' TIF allocation areas. Flipping to the next page is just a breakdown of the allocation areas. So we have 3 main allocation areas, with one area being expanded. I think there's still some legal work that needs to get, outlined in there as far as specific expiration dates of those allocation areas. But this is based on our understanding currently as far as how the allocation areas are set up, with their various adoption dates and then their base assessment dates and their expected TIF expiration dates. Moving on to the next page, you'll see a monthly breakdown of your guys' main TIF fund that your guys' TIF revenues go into. You'll see this is a breakdown of our beginning cash broken down by month, the revenue we received in that month, all the capital outlays that were made in those months, our various debt payments throughout the year, and then our other miscellaneous other services and charges expenditures throughout the year, equating to our ending year cash balance. You'll see us at $1.362 million. Moving forward, this is a breakdown rather than a monthly format. This is a breakdown of that same fund, just from a year standpoint, breaking down our revenues and expenditures in a little bit more detail. And like I said, broken down to line items according to what specific expenditures were made. You'll see total revenues for last year were received in the amount of $1,591,740. Expenditures at $1,210,019, showing a surplus of $381,720, and an ending year cash balance, as I said earlier, of $1,362,932. The next page outlines your guys' savings fund. Not much activity in here other than interest earned. You'll see we started the year with $130,742. We received $3,410, ending with a end of year fund balance of $134,151. Next page just outlines our debt overview, all the debt that we have outstanding on our various areas. You'll see they're color coded according to those allocation areas. You have your Pendleton TIF allocation area with those 2 outstanding debts, the lease rental revenue bonds of 2015 and the Waterwork District bonds of 2015. You'll see their final maturity dates, both at 1/1 of 2031. The amount that was outstanding at the beginning of year last year, the amount that was expected to be paid, matching up with the amount that was actually paid. You have your Pendleton Falls Point allocation area, which has those taxable economic development lease rental revenue bonds of 2018 outstanding. Final maturity date of 2/1/2039. You'll see your outstanding principal as of the beginning of that date, the amount expected to be paid, and the amount that was actually paid. A little bit of variance there just based on when the timing of those payments were made versus our budgeted calendar year expenditures. From there, the remaining pages of this, don't need to go into this in too much detail. Feel free to flip through them, but this is just another piece of the reporting requirement. We need to break down all of the parcels within our allocation areas. So once again, these are color coded according to those allocation areas. So you'll see that pages 10 and 11 are the Pendleton TIF area parcel list with corresponding parcel numbers, taxpayer name, gross assessed value, net assessed value, and then that net assessed value broken down between base assessed value and incremental assessed value. So what amount are we actually capturing within the TIF of that net assessed value? And then pages 12 through 18, Pendleton expansion parcel list. That one is a doozy, obviously, comprising multiple pages of parcel numbers. And then you have your final 2 pages, which would be your Pendleton, the PTARA parcel list and the Pendleton Falls Point allocation area parcel list. And we did also include within your guys' packet, a map of the existing TIF allocation areas that we created to kind of just visualize. It's kind of hard to say, hey, here's our TIF areas based on a parcel list. That especially in the Pendleton expansion scenario outlines multiple pages of parcel lists or parcel numbers. So this map really does a good job of showing you where the various Pendleton allocation areas are broken down throughout the town. The one piece that would be included on this map that is not included in this report, it is included in your guys' financial plan. But once again, this report that I'm showing you tonight is based on calendar year 24. And for the calendar year 24, the only difference here would be that Serenity TIF that was established last year, wasn't in existence as of the beginning of the year. There were no assessed values, no revenues. So there's no need to include that in the April report, but that would be the only difference as far as the map versus the areas that I outlined within the actual report. Love to answer any questions if you have any, but that would satisfy the presentation of the report to you guys for, like I said, the first reporting requirement of the year. We'll make sure this gets shared with town council, and then once again, we'll work with Karen and Willie to get this information uploaded to Gateway, so we're all satisfied for April.
Any questions from any of the boards or commission? All right, thank you.
I do have.
Oh, sorry. I didn't see-
Yeah.
Please.
So I think this is a good time to bring up and just, so looking over the horizon, what's gonna happen next related to our allocation areas. We're gonna start, we've started doing a little bit of talking with Matt about taking the parcel that is now gonna be, a developer wants to put up a hotel. It's going through the planning process. Possibly a second hotel there. So we want to isolate that parcel, just like we did with Serenity. Because if you remember, once you bond against the allocation area, then you only have 25 years and then it goes away. If you never bond against it, it continues to have revenue. So if we isolate that hotel, then we'll be able to use bond against that and still receive revenue continuously until well, forever until Indiana law changes. But anyway, by isolating that hotel, just like we did with Serenity, we can use that TIF revenue directly for a project, right? There, we have a couple of possibilities for that. So now's the time to do it before that hotel gets constructed. So that's over the horizon. That's what's going to be coming before you, probably before the end of the year. So any questions on that? Remember? Make sense? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving on. Next on the list is the re-adoption of the blight resolution.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the RDC. This evening, you received a copy of the resolution amending declaratory or the establishment of area needing redevelopment and redevelopment project area, which has been drafted by our council and Mr. Shine and his team. This updates the resolution that was passed in 2014 and brings that up to date. The reason why we're asking for the adoption of this resolution is because we have two significant grant opportunities coming up through the Office of Community and Rural Affairs. These are federal community development block grant dollars. The first one will come alive, if you will, and be released next Thursday. It's the Main Street Revitalization Program. It provides up to $600,000 in grant funding for projects that cost more than $2 million. It would require a local 20% match, and these funds could be used to update streetscapes and rehabilitate downtown infrastructure. What we would be applying for these funds for is to update the infrastructure primarily along this alleyway back here so that we can then begin revitalizing that area so that in the future, businesses who locate in these buildings, particularly restaurants, could use it for outdoor dining and the like. And also for use, particularly in this area over here around Depot Park, for use during festivals and other opportunities. The second grant is a $2 million grant, again, through the Office of Community and Rural Affairs and CDBG dollars. That comes online May the 1st. And the purpose of that is to be utilized to bring our historic buildings downtown really into the 21st century, if you will, helping business owners not only to complete facade improvements, which we're using our local food and beverage tax dollars to do that, but help them improve the insides of their buildings or put new roofs on those buildings, working to take care of the backs of those buildings, installing new windows, take care of brickwork and the like. And so that will also require a match from Main Street Pendleton of $200,000, of which $100,000 would have to be put in either an endowment fund or a revolving loan fund. We like the idea of a revolving loan fund because that can help with business retention as well as building owners to continue making improvements to their buildings in the future. And then the remaining $100,000 would be to assist in creating long-term sustainability for the Main Street organization. That said, CDBG requires that there be a blight resolution, if you will. Okra knows and understands that communities do not like the term blight, particularly communities like Pendleton. And so they are allowed to use the Indiana statute, which uses the language called area needing redevelopment. And so that's the purpose of tonight's resolution that's being presented for adoption tonight. What will happen is if you do decide to adopt this resolution, it will then go to the Plan Commission in April for their review and approval. It will then, if they accept it, it will then go on to the council for their review and approval. Come back to the RDC in May for a public hearing at its meeting and then final approval of the resolution. We cannot move forward with these grant applications without the approval of this particular resolution. I'm going to, if I may, turn it over to Mr. Shine, because beyond just the need for the CDBG funding, there are other things that this does that the previous resolution did not do. As I mentioned, the previous resolution is 10 years old. OPRA recommends as a best practice to update these resolutions every 10 years.
Yeah, good evening. Again, Rob Shine. I'm with the law firm at Dinsmore and Scholl. So great to see some of you that I know and others for the first time. So what we were talking earlier, what sometimes when we come into a position, we work with a lot of cities and towns, but we're looking back 10 years, right? So what we're doing here is connecting the dots, what was done previously, and now, okay, what do we need to do to be compliant with today's laws? So the redevelopment statute have changed a little bit. And as was discussed, OCRA, in order to be eligible for these grant funds, we have to have certain findings that are going to be made in a resolution, go through this process. One of the other things that gets confusing, and I don't want to get too much into legalese, but when you look at the Indiana code is there's a lot of terms, a lot of acronyms that are described. I know you've had before economic development areas. That's a little bit what Matt was talking about earlier with your TIF report and what's all in there. This is a little different term, same statute in Indiana Code 36714, but it talks about a redevelopment project area, and that's a specific certain findings need to be met. And that's what this resolution, the template, was outlined to address. Basically establishing, following the statutory requirements, cleaning up a little bit that was done in part 10 years ago, but not completely. Just so to the extent that opportunities could come before this commission, whether it would be to acquire property or what have you, that we would have essentially the roadmap in place so we could act a little bit quicker. then basically starting this process. So again, this is just the first step tonight. Even if you were to adopt this resolution, we have to complete the other steps as was discussed by Craig earlier. You know, we need to go to the planning commission, make sure it conforms. The planning commission needs to determine that it conforms to the comprehensive plan. The town council would then need to make sure that it does as well. And it would come back before you in what basically we call like a confirmatory resolution. We'd notice it up, have a public hearing, and go through that process. So basically, this is one step in a process to allow the town, the RDC, to have opportunities to access these grant funds. So happy to answer any questions specifically. I know we weren't sure, but this should be probably resolution 1, I would think, right? And then I just noticed maybe the signature page will need to clean up on that. So, but I'm happy to get into the details. Again, this is somewhat of a blend. This would be a similar process if we were, for example, to come before you with a different project that may require some type of financing like you've done before. Some of you may have been on the commission and seen that it's a similar process in doing like an economic development area.
One final thing I would add is that because the grants have not yet been released, I've only shared information based on the last round of funding. So when we come back in April, if you have any questions with regards to details, we'll have those available for you at that time.
Yeah, and I guess I should have added, this is an amending resolution. So what we did for your benefit and for others that may wish to read this, we tried to outline the history here is what we've done. We do that with a lot of other projects, just so, again, when somebody's looking at this sometime down the road, should this be adopted, it has a pretty good explanation of, you know, what took place and why we're here.
So the grant would go to the building, the guy that owns the building, as opposed to the business itself.
The town would administer the grant funds, yes, and then we would have an application process, and we would have criteria for how those funds would be utilized, which would be spelled out in our grant application. And yes, and so then
Prior grants were 50-50. Are you planning on doing the same thing?
we haven't gone into that level of detail yet. But I will say for the $2 million preserving grant, there is a requirement that 4 organizations must be at the table. That is the municipality, Main Street, the community foundation, and business and building owners. So we'll have to come together to agree on what that criteria would look like.
And the $1.2 million that you gotta have, that come from budgets that you've already created or from a TIF, or where does that come from?
In terms of the $2 million in order to land the 600,000 for the first grant, is that what you're?
You said,
Oh,
the town has to contribute 600,000 for each grant.
no, we can apply it for up to $600,000 for projects that are $2 million or more for the Main Street revitalization project. So if we identify that this project, for example, that I mentioned in this alleyway and over in the depot part totals more than 2 million, we can apply for up to $600,000 in CDBG funds for that. Does that answer your question?
No, I'm asking, how much money is the town gonna have to put up
Well,
at
again,
any one point for the grant? That's what I was asking.
well, there isn't a match on the 2 million, but there is a 20% local match on the 600,000. Yeah.
Okay.
For projects over 2 million.
All right.
The questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to updates of projects.
Oh, yeah.
We have to take action on it? So,
You do. Yeah, we do need to take actions.
Oh.
It's a first reading.
okay, I thought it was just discussion. Okay.
No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Our grant, the first grant is due June 19th, so. That's why we need.
That's why we need to start now, and so this is before you, the probably, as you, I think you mentioned it, there probably will be some amendments as it goes through the process, but we need to start now, with the RDC to accrue.
Yeah, I think just to reiterate the timetable here, and so I know the first grant, as I understand it, would be, again, June. So what we would have, and without any special meetings, is we were talking about earlier with other clients I work with many times due to projects, or, we can have special meetings, but the process again would be consideration of this resolution, which could be adopted if you so choose tonight. Assuming it would get adopted, then it would move on to the plan commission. Assuming that works, town council, and then it would come back to you to confirm. So the actual process has to follow those 4 steps to have it to be complete. So if any one of those bodies wouldn't finalize it, it's not going to be complete. This is just the first step. And if you choose not to go forward tonight, then we'll need to just talk on timing and all that and how that works, if there would need to be any other questions.
Does this need to have the correct signature page?
Yeah, it's what I mentioned before. I think between that and then we can, also it needs to have the resolution number 1, but so we could probably claim that maybe yet tonight if they can get it. If I choose.
Yeah, once you go do that while we're doing the projects report.
Okay, so I can, there's a motion, I'll make a motion to accept resolution 25-01. Amending the resolution of the Town of Pendleton Redevelopment Commission for the establishment of an area needing redevelopment and redevelopment project area. All right. And pending the signage page, the signature page being updated. So I got a motion. Yeah. Motion's been made. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay. Motion passed. Okay, for the projects,
Hey,
Hello.
yeah, so we have a few projects that we'd like to provide some updates to. These projects are funded in part from the RDC dollars that are generated from our allocation areas. So the first 2 that we have are the downtown revitalization plan as well as the comprehensive plan. Those 2 are planning documents in which this year for 2025, we're in the process of updating and amending those documents. So we are teaming up, and we've teamed up with HWC. We have Rachel Christensen and her team that we've been very fortunate to work with on these 2 developments. So far this year, we have met both downtown revitalization plan and the comprehensive plan have 2 separate steering committees designated for those 2 developments. However, we're going to develop and amend those throughout the year in tandem with each other. So then that way, as these 2 planning documents get amended, then they will speak to one another. Our downtown revitalization plan was done in 2015, and then our comprehensive plan was last amended in 2018. So it's going to be great to be able to have those amended. We know that a lot of growth and development is taking place here for our community, and to be able to have those kind of updated and coincide, with our current goals and objectives is going to be wonderful. So right now, what we've done since our first steering committee meeting, we've also hosted 2 full days of focus group meetings. We probably had within 2 days, we had probably close to about 100 individuals from the community serving in different capacities and expertise, being able to come in and serve on those focus groups. And we're able to gather feedback from each one of those to be able to kind of plug into these documents going forward. We also had on February the 24th, a couple weeks ago, we hosted our public workshop, which was a great turnout from our community. It was wonderful. We had boards out here in the lobby room, also in here, and it allowed engagement with our community members to be able to pull feedback as far as what they envisioned for our town. So those findings are being currently gathered, as well as we also have a community survey that was just out, and it just closed here this past weekend. So the findings from both of those two interactions are going to then be collected and gathered and summarized by our consultants, and then they're going to come back to our second steering committees here on the 24th of March. So from here, we just kind of give you a little broadcast of kind of what to expect here this year. We'll continue to have about 4 or 5 for each of those steering committees to meet. In June, we're going to have another public open house to be able to kind of summarize those findings for our community. And then those 2 planning documents and amendments will then kind of formalize over the next course of 4 or 5 months. And our goal is to have these approved by December 2025. So then that way going into 26, we'll have those all up to date. The second project update we have is our Keystone Development Plan. So your I-69 interchange corridor plan, a very instrumental document that we have here for our community that you all played the biggest part in getting that up and going. That document had designated the I-69 corridor and how your committee and our community saw those areas develop. So a part of that we had on the north side of State Road 38 there, and then also on the south side that there was kind of that overlay district bubble that was designated as a keystone development. So for a keystone development, that was kind of those a tourism, maybe a headquarters, a tourist destination point. And so what those plans were kind of a 300 feet up in the air vision of what that area would be developed, land use would be envisioned for those areas. And what this Keystone plan would be taking more of a 30 feet in the air. So getting a little bit more into the details of the development, maybe even the architecture, a little bit more specific in those uses. So as that gets developed, right now where we're at with that is that we have put out an RFP, a request for proposal. We received a couple of those. We had interviewed those 2 teams about a couple months ago. We've kind of had some follow-up conversations with them. They've submitted some revised proposals. Those are currently under review. So once we get those going and get those that team on board, we'll be updating you and involving you in that process. So we're excited about that development as well. And I would say anticipating here maybe in the next 60, 90 days, we'll be ready to start that process, having steering committees and so forth, and then having that too wrapped up by the end of the year. The third project we have is the Business Park Trail. That is that trail that's going to take from our bridge over I-69 that's going to come across there on the south side of State Road 38 that's going to connect into close there, South Heritage Way, where the school headquarters are. We're going to cross over the town property lines there to Fall Creek Drive. Then it will connect into Fall Creek there. We'll have that bridge, a pedestrian bridge that will connect to Taylor Street, come in then through town, and then eventually then connect to our park system. So we'll be able to allow those on the west side to be able to have a pedestrian safe course to be able to then get to the downtown area. So where we're at with that, our consultants are in survey phase. They are looking at kind of what those red flags, those roadblocks of areas that with right-of-way issues, utility easements and so forth, looking at defining the best course and layout and alignment of that trail system. And so we expect to get those findings here and kind of putting a little bit more detail on that here in the next few months. But a part of that project, there was some discussion as far as the town property that is there, that would be east of community sports and wellness area there, where that trail system comes through. And that area was discovered as maybe a good area for a community space, potentially maybe even a community amphitheater, but an area where the community can utilize in that type of gathering space for event space, farmers market, a lot of different variety of uses. Our school system has interest in utilizing a facility out there for graduations and so forth. So what we are looking at, this is just a very small scale project, that the reason why it was so important for us that we felt that we needed to start exploring that piece is then because it falls so closely and tight with where that trail system is going to go through, that we wanted to get some conceptual renderings of kind of if there is some development around that area where we need to realign and direct that pathway through that area. So just very much groundwork on that, but I think it'll give us a little bit of clarity and some direction as that project develops. Just to kind of restate here, that is a 80-20 federal government project. So as we develop that, when we get from just development on the books or on the shelf, when we're ready to have fundraising, whether grants, opportunities and so forth, and with MCOG that we're working with for that federal aid there, we'll be ready to go and just adding in our 20% cost to that. Yes, please.
So just a reminder. $14 million project spread out over 7 years. I think we've talked about it a few times. And then you allocated 20,000 for the concept. If we had an amphitheater, what would the footprint look like? And remember, as we looked at where that trail was coming down, basically, we're talking the area where it's right now, it's the town's clean fill. So if we cut down a tree or tree comes down or there's concrete we pull out, that's where we've been putting it, right? We've been doing this for several years. It's old state property, old reformatory property that was given to us by Governor O'Bannon. So it didn't make sense to have this real nice pedestrian bridge come across and just connect to a trail and not take advantage of that hill. So we looked at several options. It's not to replace a smaller amphitheater or stage place that could happen in the park, right? But this would be for larger events. One of the things that we're looking at, as you remember, some of you that were here last year, is that probably the biggest public event outside is high school graduation. Superintendent told us that's a 5,000, huge, right? So we wanted to look at something that would be able to handle a footprint or bigger than that. And as we've gone through the design process on the trail, it has become more important. It's important that that 20,000 you allocated for this is so important because we don't want a conflict. We don't want to have to tear out a trail just because later we come in and put that public space in. So it's working out really, really well. We're not ready to reveal yet what some of the concepts could look like. But we have had some presentations from Banning Engineering. We just need to change some things. Want to make sure the first look is what we think the community would be comfortable with.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah.
Anybody have any questions on that? Okay.
Yeah, we'll definitely keep you informed as that progresses for sure. So, yeah. The next project has got two more quick ones. Remember, we went through the Serenity Community Agreement process last year. That was the North Heritage Way development, the property there north of State Road 38 or State Street there at Heritage Way roundabout. So that developer, that was that developer-backed bond that we had agreed to do that allocation area and agreement for that 75-25 split. That developer is ready to get going on road construction. So a piece of that and a very important part of that agreement was for them to develop the roadway there. It's a 4-lane boulevard. It's going to entail not only lighting, signage, utilities. Utilities are from water line improvements, sewer, line, and lift station, as well as electric, street lighting, and then trail system as well. That will continue on our trail system, and then also a stormwater detention management system there on that land. So a part of that, they have submitted all of their construction plans for that. Being that this is a little bit different process than kind of that typical subdivision plating process that we go through, they are currently working on a DCCR, that is just those declarations and covenants, commitments record there, to make sure that the developer will be responsible maintaining that stormwater system. Until then, the ownership changes and those lots then subdivide and then build out in the future. So we're waiting for that piece. So once we get that, we'll be ready to approve the roadway improvement plans, and you'll start seeing development here, hopefully here in the next couple of months.
Denise,
Yes.
is that on the north?
It's on the north side, yes. We have a little bit, we got the sewer line improvement that they're gonna have to connect in on the south side, which would be the west side of South Heritage Way. But other than that, all the improvements would be on the north side of State Street. So, yeah. And then the last project we have the Elm Street, Main Street project, that is getting underway here in a couple of months. That process, or that project is a part of our Community Crossings grant. That's a 75-25 split. We had awarded DC Construction, and their bid came in right under 900,000. So we're looking at around 600,000 or so. That's based on the eligible items for community crossings that we're going to be getting for a grant that should be coming here in the next couple of weeks. That improvement will be Elm Street, that's going to run from Main Street to North Pendleton Avenue. We're going to be putting in a improved water line. That's going to be storm improvements down the center of that road. We're going to put sidewalks on both the north and south side of that road, as well as we're going to have some relocations for electric. And then we're going to be making some improvements for the Thomas Pendleton house because they're the north side of their building as well as the west side of their building is in the public right of way. So we're going to have to make some improvements for the runoff and sidewalks there. And then on Main Street, it's going to go from Elm Street all the way down to Madison. Same thing, there's going to be some water line, storm line improvements, a little bit of widening the roads there. And then, of course, then that mill and overlay, which will be asphalt then over that. They're going to be starting here. You expect to have an open house notification here probably sometime in April. We're going to invite the community to come. We're going to get personal invites out to the residents that are adjacent to this project, so they're well informed. And we'll be getting underway on that probably the end of May, 1st of June, and that'll run until about the end of October, end of November. So that's
So, a couple things on that. So, remember, part of this project, this is a huge stormwater project for the town. It basically takes the whole quarter of the downtown water and takes it to a open ditch there at Main and Madison. So, this construction will eliminate that constant flooding that we have at Elm on Pendleton Avenue. I think we've all, Lisa, if you know which flooding I'm talking about there. So
Yes.
in addition to the other
Yes.
flooding that's happened around your area. And then it's important to know that this is part of the next phase after this will be to reroute the storm line that the old storm line that we connect to, which literally ran past the side door of the lumber company over the years. So it's a line, I think a 30-inch line that has since collapsed fairly recently, we believe. And so the next phase will be not to revitalize that, but abandon it in place and then go from Elm Street, connection here. And then the next phase will be to connect to that Elm Street drain on Pendleton Avenue and run up Pendleton Avenue, basically to Sophie's Bagel, the alley there, And then that will be the last leg of this major drain line that takes on, in some cases, even more than a quarter of downtown water and everything south of that. So that's the big picture, what to look for in the future. The only thing else I wanted to do is help connect the dots. So it's clear from early public input that they are focused on the depot parking lot area, and that's probably the number one thing that the public wants to see improved. We've talked about that in previous meetings, probably of being a focus area of the RDC. So it's in place with the comp plan, RDC funding, and then we move forward with that area, which could be quite extensive, including reconstruction of North Broadway, depot parking lot, and some other things. So it'll bring the park down to our State Street and provide more parking for everybody.
Yes, and yeah, to add to that, Elm Street, Main Street, we did have a major storm reconstruction there along that railroad that runs from Elm to Main Street. So it will connect that north end to the south end by the creek. So yeah, it'd be great to be able to finish that up. You have any questions for me or?
I had a question from past meetings. We had discussed the two property lines out by the ballpark and the easements and replatting that, fixing that road. That was discussed in past. Is there any updates on that?
Yeah, so the planning department has reached out to the owner of that particular parcel. We've not received indication as far as what their wishes are, if they are ready to move forward with that or not. So I know that the planning director was going to reach back out and see if we can get a update and see if that's something that they still wish to move forward with at this time.
It'd been nice to get forward progress with it before ball season. All that gets into the summer, cars coming and going. It'd been another vehicle safety thing.
No, good
Thank you.
point. Yeah, thank you.
Anything else? Thanks, Denise.
Hey, you're welcome.
Moving forward, any public comment? Nothing online? Okay, nothing. So that will, I'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting